Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Leanne, and tonight I'm going to be sharing with you another What's for Dinner video. Tonight for dinner, well, you see it's almost 8 o'clock and I have not meal planned in quite some time. I was out all day doing errands, and so I've got nothing for dinner. So when there's nothing for dinner, we're going to have breakfast for dinner. So I'm going to make a super easy quiche, which I have shared with you before. It's like eggs. I'm doing eggs, cheese, ham, and milk. It's a crustless quiche, super easy, but I will also be making some pancakes, so I'm gonna share that recipe with you tonight. So let's get started because, yeah, it's already 10 minutes till 8, and it'd be nice to eat before 10. So this recipe is really quite basic. It calls for 1 pound of sausage, which I am not gonna use. I would say 1 pound of meat, 8 eggs, 2 cups of shredded cheese, and then 1/2 cup to a cup of milk. And so I just grated up some cheese, and I'm just using this pre-cooked ham. We use this a lot of times for lunches. And then 8 eggs. You could do more if you wanted to put it in like a 9 by 13, but I'm just going to do a pie dish. And just whisk the eggs and milk together. Then you're going to add in your cheese and meat. You could do sausage or bacon or ham, obviously whatever you want. You could also add in spinach if you want. I didn't have any of that on hand, but you could do that to add in some veggies. But this is just super simple and basic, but really, really good. And I'm just spraying the pie plate. And this goes in the oven at 350 for about 40 minutes. I also decided to add just a little bit of feta cheese on top. We like feta, and I had it, so I figured why not? So there it is before it goes into the oven. All right, so I'm trying a new pancake recipe, different than the one I've done before. I will include a link in the description box below. But I'm going to start by mixing together my dry ingredients. So I'm going to take 1/4 cup or 1 1/4 cup of almond flour, and then 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Just going to mix that together. I've got 2 eggs here, and we're going to mix together the liquids. Now, because I'm using coconut oil, it said to make sure the eggs and milk were room temperature, so these are pretty close to room temperature, and I warmed this up just a little bit. I've got 1/3 cup of unsweetened vanilla almond milk. And then I think 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. If the other ingredients are cold, they will solidify the coconut oil. And I also am going to just add in some vanilla, even though that is not in the recipe. And then we're going to mix in the dry ingredients. So this pancake recipe is actually a keto and dairy-free recipe. We did it more so to just avoid the all-purpose flour. And I have another recipe I make with coconut flour, and my husband likes them, but I'm not a huge fan, and they never come out pretty. So I wanted to try another recipe, and this one came out great. But I would definitely say to follow the instructions about having like ingredients at room temperature and like spraying the pan instead of using butter. Those are all very specific to this recipe, but they came out really, really good. And my husband wanted blueberries in his pancakes, but I didn't want to mess up the recipe since it was a new one I was trying, and they're kind of particular when you use different flours. So I just took some frozen blueberries and warmed them up in the microwave and then mashed them a little bit, and it came out perfectly. And then this is the quiche all finished, and this was really good. The pancakes were really good. I'm excited to find a pancake recipe that both my husband and I can both enjoy. So there is the quiche, kind of a big serving, but hey, it was dinner. So for tonight's dinner, I'm going to be trying a couple of new recipes, and I will have everything linked in the description box below. But I'm going to be making a honey garlic chicken, which I've done something similar before, but this is a new recipe. I'm also going to be making honey sriracha Brussels sprouts. I am not a cabbage Brussels sprout fan at all, but while grocery shopping with my husband, he was like, oh, these look so good. I'm like, if you like Brussels sprouts, I can make them for you. So he does. We've been married 15 years, and this will be the first time I've made Brussels sprouts for him. It's hard for me to think of making things that I personally don't care for. Sorry, just saw my hair. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing that along with, I think, some quinoa, and then I'll make a different veggie for myself. So let's get started. All right, so this recipe is really easy and my husband loved it. So it is 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, about 2 teaspoons of sriracha sauce, 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and about 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I just cut up the Brussels sprouts. I didn't do a ton here. 1, it was just for him, and 2, I didn't know if I was going to do a good job on them and if he was going to like them, and I just didn't want to, I guess, waste some. So I just did about like 1 serving's worth, but this is really, really good, or my husband said it was. I still don't think I like Brussels sprouts, but the recipe is going to be linked in the description box below. So I just cut the Brussels sprouts in half, mixed it up with the little sauce, and these just go on a greased cookie sheet, and I put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes, and then you toss it, put them in for another 10 minutes. So now I'm working on the sauce for the chicken, and it's 1/3 cup of honey or maple syrup, 1½ tablespoons of apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, which is what I use, and about 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. I am using coconut aminos because that is just what we use. Now moving on to cooking the chicken, I'm just melting some butter in the pan, and then I'm going to dip the chicken in some flour. I'm using pretty thin pieces, so these don't take super long to cook in the pan, but you're just going to do them for a couple minutes on each side till they are golden brown and cooked through. And then once they are cooked, you're going to just kind of make room in the center, add a little bit more butter and some garlic, and stir that around for a minute. And then we're going to add in the sauce. And you're going to, if it gets too thick, you can add a little bit of water. I did not have that problem. And just let that kind of sit until the sauce thickens. I just kept turning the chicken and just kind of getting everything coated and let that sauce thicken up. And this chicken was really, really good. We definitely enjoyed this. I made myself just some broccoli on the side, which oddly enough, I somehow burnt that. That's never happened for me before. And then I think this night we made it with quinoa. I'm trying to tell if it's quinoa or rice. I can't remember, but I think it's quinoa. So for tonight's dinner, I'm gonna make meatballs and baked ziti. I'm gonna do, I don't know if I've shared this meatball recipe with you before or not, and the baked ziti is different than the one I've done before, but not complicated either way. I'm making it now. It's not that early. It's 6:30. But we're not going to be eating till probably like 9:30 or so. I have somewhere to go, and we won't be home till later. So, is that a bug on the wall? No, it's not. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to make the meatballs. I'm going to bake them, and then I think I'm just going to throw them in a crock pot, and I'm going to prepare the baked ziti and just put it in the fridge. And then when I get home, I'll just have to pop that in the oven. So you'll obviously don't have to do it all of those little extra steps at the end, but I'll show you the recipes anyway. So let's get started into the meatballs. I don't really like a ton of onion in my meatballs, but I'm just gonna do 1/2 of one, I think. So once again, I'll have this recipe in the description box below, but I've got 1 pound of ground beef, 1/2 of an onion chopped up. Again, I'm not a super huge fan of onion in my meatballs, but I did it anyway, so I just did a little less. And then I've got 1/2 cup of milk, 2 eggs beaten together. We're going to add that in to the ground beef, some minced garlic, and I just poured in whatever panko breadcrumbs I had left, so you're supposed to do about 1 cup. And then some basil, oregano, salt, and I decided to add some feta cheese. Once again, we have it and we really like it, so I'm just crumbling that up there, mixing this all together. If you've not seen my videos before, I do not like to handle raw meat, so I love these disposable gloves for that type of a thing. And then I did add in a little bit more panko breadcrumbs. I had to open up a new container, but it just felt like it needed a little bit more. And then you're going to put these in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes altogether. We will stop halfway through. All right, so halfway through, I'm going to flip these and also switch up which rack they were on, just to try to get everything cooking evenly. I don't know if you can see here, but these were on the bottom rack, these were on the top rack, so clearly these were getting a little bit more done. So I'm glad I flipped them, and we're gonna also switch which racks they go on. All right, so now we're moving on to the baked ziti, and I'm just starting by cooking up 3 cups of pasta. We use a brown rice pasta from Trader Joe's, and I'm going to grate up a block of mozzarella. I don't know what recipe I followed. I honestly can't find it, but this is a pretty basic baked ziti recipe. Last few times I've made it, I've used cottage cheese. This time I used ricotta, and I did use more than necessary, but because I like cheese. So I got about 3/4 cup of sauce, 1 egg that's beaten. I'm adding in 1 cup of the ricotta here, about 1 cup of mozzarella, and some parsley, oregano, and some salt. Mixing that together, and then I'm going to just add in the cooked pasta. At the bottom of the baking dish, I made a smaller one here just because it's just the 2 of us and I didn't want leftovers for the entire week, but I greased it and then put in a little bit of sauce, added in the ziti and cheese mixture, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. Oh, I added a little bit more sauce. I didn't know what I was going to do with the little bit of ricotta cheese left, so I just kind of plopped it on top here because to me, the more the better, and added on a little bit more mozzarella cheese on top. All right, so at this point you would put this in the oven at 375 for 45 to 55 minutes, but I'm going to let this cool. I did cool down the noodles already, and then I'll pop this in the fridge until we're ready to eat it. But that's what you would do if you were just following the recipe. So dinner is basically done, but I'll show you it later once it's all plated up. I'm going to put the meatballs in the crock pot now with a little bit of sauce, just for the next, I don't know, probably 2 hours. I'm just going to put them on the low or keep warm. Well, guys, this is, I don't even know how many days later, but I never got a shot of it all plated up and finished because by the time we got home, we just put it in the oven, got showers. When we got out of the shower, it was ready to eat, and we dove in. But it was really, really good. Anyways, that's going to be it for this What's for Dinner. I've got all the recipes linked in the description box below. If you hear any noises or heard any during the voiceover, it's because I've got a contractor here. And he probably thinks I'm downstairs talking to myself, but he's making a racket upstairs. I had to stop and pause every time he came down or anytime really loud noises were happening, but I'm bound and determined to get this video up. So anyways, that's what all of that's about, if you can hear it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoy this and subscribe below to see my future videos. I'll see you next time.